Hello, my friends. My name is Darren Gerdes. It is Friday, December 6th. I want you to remember these dates. December 5th and December 6th may be turning points in history. Something very bad happened yesterday and just happened today that may mean that we've accelerated from like a 1938 scenario to a 1939 scenario and we're moving forward. I'll show you what I mean within these 12 stories. I have 12 big stories for you today. I want to start with this. This is not the story here. I'll get to it shortly. FBI and CISA are warning Americans to use responsibly encrypted messaging and phone calls when they can. The backdrop is the Chinese hacking of U.S. telecom networks that is ongoing and likely larger in scale than previously understood. Well, what are we talking about? Well, apparently, like many Trump campaign members were hacked by the Chinese, and the way that they did it was that they had Chinese spies working for the telecom industries, the phone companies. Now, even FBI and CISA, the U.S. Cyber Defense Agency, are warning Americans to use responsibly encrypted messaging and phone calls when they can. That's a big change in the United States, at least. The network cyber attacks attributed to Salt Typhoon, a group associated with China's Ministry of Public Security, has generated heightened concern as to vulnerabilities within critical U.S. communication networks. The FBI official warned that citizens should be, quote, using a cell phone that automatically receives timely operating system updates, responsibly manage encryption and phishing-resistant MFA for email, social media, and collaboration tool accounts. That's terrifying that they're warning this about Americans just going about their business. Okay, so here's big story number two. Trump has chosen to put the Putin regime in charge of U.S. cryptocurrency and AI laws. Well, that's a little hyperbolic overstatement of this, but who did he put in charge? Donald Trump said that he is appointing former PayPal COO David Sachs as a czar for artificial intelligence and cryptocurrencies. And here's the announcement on True Social. I am pleased to announce that David O. Sachs will be the White House AI and Crypto Czar. In this important role, David will guide the policy for the administration in artificial intelligence and cryptocurrency, two areas are critical to the future of American competitiveness. Now, if this actually works, it's going to undermine the US dollar as the means of exchange throughout the world, and it'll hurt the United States. Now, Jay in Kiev explains that all enemies of democracy with this cryptocurrency can wage wars of territorial expansion free from the consequences of the last remaining elements of US soft power, like US sanctions and that sort of thing. An impartial international body will be set up to govern this new crypto world. Russia and China will paralyze it exactly as they have the UN and any other international body that they're currently party to. Well, that would actually be an optimal scenario. I think if you actually did have cryptocurrency, that could work out very poorly. The key to American power is the US dollar as the world's reserve currency, and Russia's primary goal is to undermine that. Musk, Thiel, and Sachs will mainstream crypto and then blow it up. Now, I don't know if they're going to blow it up, but they are trying to mainstream it. But I'm not as confident that it can actually work out well because the backing of the US government is not the same thing as having some kind of blockchain exchange. Here we saw this in the news, virtual Hawk Tuah girl. She's some kind of celebrity for being a celebrity. Haley Welch faces arrest over a crypto scam. What went wrong? Well, she launched this cryptocurrency, and the launch of this new cryptocurrency went awry on Wednesday, hitting a market capitalization of nearly 500 million before plummeting almost immediately to 25 million. The Hawk Tuah coin, launched by viral sensation Haley Welch, debuted on the Solana blockchain earlier this week. Accusations of insider trading have also been leveled against the influencer, with Cointelegraph claiming that around 80 to 90% of the currency was controlled by insiders. So I don't know that this kind of thing's going to work, but if it does, it could change things pretty significantly. Now, here's big story number 3 from the Kyiv Post. Chechen strongman Kadyrov shows how tough he really is by taunting a group of captive Ukrainians, offering them a pistol for suicide, and then announcing intention to use them as human shields. Razman Kadyrov, close ally of President Vladimir Putin and authoritarian head of Chechnya, Russia's Restiv Caucasian region spoke with Ukrainian prisoners of war in a meeting heavily promoted in state-controlled media. He offered his own pistol to a Ukrainian service member so he could kill himself. Now notice a scenario where he's taunting a POW, because that's what really strong men do. Sure. Now, why is he doing this? A Ukrainian drone strike had some 6 hours earlier hit and damaged a barracks used by the Chechnya paramilitary special police in Akhmat. I talked about that and I said, well, we don't know who it is. Is it Ukrainians or is it the neighbors or is it infighting? But we'll find out. You're finding out. I'll give you a pistol so you can shoot yourself. You can die a hero. No, you don't want to? Look, this guy wants to go kill people, but he doesn't want to die himself. That's not the way things are. In war, people kill and they get killed. Except that Kadyrov isn't doing anything really tough. He knows that nothing's going to happen to him, but it makes for a good TikTok video. Okay, big story number 4. Ukraine will receive hundreds of thousands of shells, thousands of missiles, hundreds of armored vehicles by mid-January, says U.S. National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan. Now, the fascinating thing about this is that I was listening to Ukraine the Latest, and they were saying what I was thinking, and that is Trump knows about this. He knows and is tacitly agreeing to this, allowing this to happen without raising a stink about it, because he could be publicly making a stink about, hey, they're spending our money, they shouldn't be doing that. But he's allowing it. And if he knows about that, well, what about this? Remember yesterday I was talking about how Blinken confirms that Ukraine is to receive $50 billion transfer from frozen Russian assets? And if Trump knows about this with the artillery and other pieces, does he know about the $50 billion in assets in order to create a greater negotiating position? Like Trump will be meeting with Zelensky in a couple of days briefly in Notre Dame. I think Trump, I've said he's a wild card, but he might be a more positive wild card than anyone thought he was going to be. All right, next story. So Tucker Carlson was going to be making a breakthrough meeting with Lavrov to get the real story from Lavrov. Okay, well, here's Lavrov in his own words. You can hear him for yourself.
No NATO. No NATO, absolutely. No military bases. No military exercises on the Ukrainian soil with participation of foreign troops. And this is something which he reiterated. But of course, he said, it was April 2022. Now some time has passed, and the realities on the ground would have to be taken into account and accepted. The realities on the ground are not only the line of contact, but also the changes in the Russian constitution after referendum was held in Donetsk, Lugansk republics and Kherson and Zaporozhye regions. Yes. And they are now part of the Russian Federation according to the
Okay, according to the Constitution, according to the fake referendum that everyone knows was rigged, and people were there by gunpoint. Like if you lifted up all the soldiers from the battlefield and you just watch which way people flowed, would they stay put, would they flow into Russia, or would they flow back into Ukraine? You would know the answer definitively of what the people actually want. Okay, here's Lavrov again in a different context. Russian Foreign Minister Lavrov made one of his most outrageous statements to date. Russia does not want to attack anyone. It was the USA that attacked Russia through the hands of the Ukrainian regime. That's propaganda. That's just like, it's absurd that he's even saying that. Michael McFaul, the former ambassador to Russia in 2012 to 2014, hit it on the head. This is Orwellian. But it's hard for me to believe that anyone takes anything Lavrov says as true, but they do. And that's really the kicker. Okay. Here is Steve Rosenberg. He does this great job for the BBC with trying to explain what is in Russian papers. We're going to listen to about 40 seconds of what he had to say for today.
Today's Russian papers give a sense of the parallel reality created here since the start of Russia's war on Ukraine. Today's Kommersant quotes Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov, "The US attacked us, Russia, with the hand of the Ukrainian regime and is waging war against us with Ukrainian neo-Nazis." Just a reminder that on the 24th of February 2022, it was Russia that launched a full-scale invasion of Ukraine. This was Moscow's decision to attack and invade its neighbour. The military paper Red Star claims that Russian soldiers are guarding peace and justice, defending our motherland on the field of battle of the special military operation. Again, Moscow presenting this as a defensive operation, as Russia fighting for peace, when it was Russia that invaded Ukraine.
Okay, so I mean that's just amazing that they're willing to even put that out there. Now, the Estonian Minister of Foreign Affairs says that Putin has not changed the goals. The goal is to destroy Ukraine. The goal is not to gain more territories. Putin has not changed the goals, and the war will continue. I think that's very fair. Now, this is the big story here. Putin signs agreement offering Russia security guarantees to its ally Belarus. Now, that doesn't sound like anything new, but it actually is, because yesterday I talked about this. North Korea's defense treaty between Russia and North Korea just came into effect officially yesterday. And I said in that video yesterday, go back and look at it, that if this happens elsewhere with Iran or with Syria or with, well, now it's Belarus, I think Russia is trying to recreate USSR 2.0, and that's what's happening here. Now, these security guarantees are mostly about nuclear kinds of things, but that's not the point. The point is that he's expanding and trying to create an Article 5 like scenario with other countries. So, Russia's President Vladimir Putin visited Belarus on Friday to sign a treaty offering security guarantees to Moscow's closest ally, including the possible use of Russian nuclear weapons to help repel an aggression. The signing of the document follows the publication of a revised version of Russia's nuclear doctrine, which for the first time placed Belarus under Russia's nuclear umbrella amid the tensions between Moscow and the West over Ukraine's conflict. Speaking alongside Belarus President Alexander Lukashenko, Putin emphasized that the new document includes the potential use of Russia's tactical nuclear weapons deployed to Belarus in response to aggression. And again, they signed the pact, and this is like North Korea and Russia and Belarus are now all on the same page. If anyone attacks any one of them, you have an Article 5 kind of scenario. And then Lukashenko says, I would like to publicly ask you to deploy new weapon systems, primarily Orishnik, to Belarus. He said, it will help calm some heads. Okay, this was big. I can't explain how big this is. This is big. Okay, some other news stories. Voting has begun in Romania. And remember, Romania was being infected by TikTok. So they have weaponized TikTok and other social media in order to have bots do the bidding in order to overthrow what would be democratically elected kind of processes in Romania. Now it's crisis level, says Jay in Kyiv. If the EU doesn't ban TikTok, Russia is going to install Putin candidates in every country. Russia and China are at war, and it's government's responsibility to protect the people from enemies, both foreign and domestic. We're just not heeding the warning. Okay, in Georgia, the president has called on the prime minister to step down as pressure is mounting, but it's been pretty peaceful there over the last 2 days. Now, it's been peaceful for a reason. So it's been very quiet because there's no police crackdowns, no water cannons, little fireworks. Now, a couple of things have happened. Anonymous, the cyber hacking group, has declared war on the Georgian government, and there have been many resignations within the government, and that might be why it's so quiet and peaceful there. If they start getting violent against the people, you'll see a Euromaidan kind of situation, and I think they figured out that that's what's going on. I hope that's the case, but the people in Georgia don't want what Russia is selling in the form of more authoritarian pressure like they had in the Soviet Union. Okay, I talked to a professor from South Korea. He's an international business and strategy professor who was telling me about the scenario in South Korea, that it's all domestic. It's not inspired by China or North Korea or Russia or anything like that. They just, their politics are more hardball than ours are. And it looks like the president may be impeached. Now, he has an impeachment-proof majority in his party, but the leader of his party, of South Korea's ruling party, Han Dong-hoon, expressed support for the impeachment of President Yoon Suk-yeol, who declared martial law just a few days ago. And if that happens, if people within his party break, he will be impeached, and that's just going to happen. If 8 members of his party flip, that's what will happen. So we don't need to worry about what's going on in South Korea anymore. Inflation is soaring in Russia. The ruble is plunging. Russian economy faces headwinds. Okay, and I showed you this. The ruble, it was up to, or down to, you can say it either way, down to 113 to $1 and then back to 101. So it's been, after the sanctions, it like spiked. And then, okay, so let's look at this. This is the Radio Free Europe article about this. When you're a Russian retiree living on a limited income, it's bad enough trying to contend with skyrocketing prices for staples like eggs and potatoes or butter. Now add to the list of worries swooning ruble hitting lows not seen in years. I see these prices and my eyes get wide, say one retired history teacher who lives in St. Petersburg and tries to get by on 19,100 rubles, that's $187 as a monthly pension. What's going on? Prices are rising for absolutely everything. Well, I'll tell you what's going on. What's going on is that the Russian military is forcing the prices up by spending more money to attract people to go lay down their lives on the front lines. And then industry has to compete with what the military is doing. And so here it is. Higher war wages, however, have forced civilian factories, particularly military industrial enterprises, to hike wages to compete and fill vacancies. Putin himself has publicly lamented labor shortages have been a problem. Well, that's because you have people going to the front lines and dying, and we passed 750,000 Russian casualties this morning, right? So you have that, and then you have other people that are competing for those same bodies, and they have to offer more and more salaries. But then that becomes a problem because that leads to inflation. Elevated salaries have fueled inflation, driving up the cost of everyday goods, including butter, potatoes, and eggs. All right, so that's what's happening inside Russia. Meanwhile, Tulsi Gabbard may become the director of all intelligence in the United States. Now, I don't think that she'll pass muster within the U.S. Senate. I don't think that they're going to approve her, but this interesting article in the Daily Beast was talking about what she reads. She has a diet largely of RT and other similar kind of things. So Jason Crow said that there are deep questions about where her loyalties lie, and Representative Debbie Wasserman Schultz said that she is a Russian agent without any evidence. But it's easier than that. You don't have to, just because somebody advocates for Russia doesn't mean they're a Russian agent. She just takes in a steady diet of Russian propaganda. Gabbard's former aides, however, told ABC that the more plausible explanation for her outlook is her media diet. They said the former Democrat continued regularly reading and sharing articles from RT well after she was advised that it was an unreliable source of information. Gabbard quit the Democratic Party in 2022. Just recently, she was a Democrat congresswoman from Hawaii before that, and drifted into the Trump orbit over the next 2 years, finally going full MAGA by joining the Republican Party in October. But the question at the very end of the article says this: Gabbard's views mirror Russia's narrative. Is it because she's naive, or is she colluding with the Russians, or is she just politically opportunist, like to get along and go along and get a political appointment from the MAGA administration? Okay, which Trump picks will be confirmed? Pete Hegseth, he was down to 12% probability. He's back up to 36%. Tulsi Gabbard is at 56%. I think both of them are likely not to be confirmed by the U.S. Senate. Everyone else is over here in 90%, 80%, with only RFK Jr. and Kash Patel kind of in that middle ground between there. Now, some in the administration are trying to be tough on China and then yet simultaneously soft on Russia. And I don't think that's going to work, and neither does Michael McFaul, who writes, trying to be tough on China and soft on Russia is an incompatible position because looking weak in Europe translates directly into looking weak in Asia. I think that's very fair. Zelensky said that when people now talk of freezing the war, they almost never ask, what will happen to the millions of our people? What will happen to the hundreds of thousands of children who are still in the occupied territory? And this is all very cynical. And again, it is. Now, I want to leave you with this last thought. I saw this meme and it's kind of comforting. Whenever I'm feeling down, I just remind myself that $1 trillion worth of propaganda didn't work on me. And it's not working on you. And thank you, my friends, for being here. Thank you for the time. Thank you for the likes, the shares, the subscribes. Thank you to those of you who bought me a coffee or subscribed and became a patron. I really appreciate that. But thank you more than anything else for being the kind of person that cares about Ukraine.